Alright, we're back on sports. Let me say this now. Before I get started on all these other issues, alright, I need to speak about two issues beforehand, very quickly. First off, the news have been talking all day about Sam Bradford and how he's going to show up to practice for the Eagles. I do not care. Eagles fans, I really don't care at this point. After how he has acted like a fucking child, okay, and he's not going to compete for his job, even though you know every year, alright, when it comes to football and preseason, everyone is competing for a spot. But he doesn't feel as though he should have to compete. That's a bunch of bullshit, okay? And as far as I'm concerned, he wants to hold out. He doesn't want to hear what other people have to say. Well, then I don't want to hear what he has to say. That's the simple thing in reality as far as I'm concerned. I don't care if this man goes out there and throws 1 billion touchdowns this year. I'm still not going to cheer for him. As far as I'm concerned, get rid of his ass. I do not care about Sam Bradford at this point. Also, I want to move on to the Philadelphia Phillies. I want to give them a quick shout out and say, you know, it's great. It's been fun to watch the Phillies play the way they've been playing, and they are fighting hard. So my hat's off to you, Phillies. Now I want to move on to the real news that we have today, and get back to our regularly scheduled stuff. Now, for the running community, I have to talk to you real quick due to the fact that we have some positive news going on today. That's right, some positive news. Now, for those who don't remember, all right, in February I did the Cupid Chase, right, for charity. Now, for those who don't remember, this is the time my hands went numb. It was hard for me to tie my shoes because it was like 20 degrees outside with wind chill. So, yeah, and it was at the Philadelphia Zoo. So, for those who don't know, the Cupid Chase hits record numbers in 2016 and raises over $260,000 for local programs and services. So, I want to say congratulations to everyone who participated in the Cupid Chase 5K. Was really fun to do, and you have to understand that all that, they said, was for charity, so all those proceeds, it goes for a good cause as well. Also, last week, I talked about the Broad Street Run. And I said, what about the Broad Street Run? About its supporters and volunteers. I said they were great supporters, great volunteers. Local support was really amazing. I said that, and I compared it to not having that type of local support since the Ocean City Half Marathon I did last year and the Rock and Roll Half Marathon that I also did last year. The reason I didn't add in the Avengers, the superhero weekend marathon, is because a lot of that stuff was paid for, as opposed to local support when it came to their supporters. I mean, let's be honest here. There were some local supporters, who were dressed up and, as superheroes and, and thanking everyone for running and cheering them on. But there were a lot of people who were paid to do it. For example, remember when I told you when I was running out of when we were at the stadium and we were coming out, into the parking lot and all the military personnel was there. You can't tell me that they weren't paid to do that due to the fact that they had airplanes in the parking lot, they had Jeeps in the parking lot, they were square dancing, they had music and all this stuff. I'm sure a number of them were volunteers who said, hey, we can do it, but I'm sure they had to pay for that in order to get done because you can't have those type of vehicles out there in the parking lot out of nowhere just for free. I mean, let's be honest here. So I wanted to keep that separate as opposed to actual local support that you see, people coming out of their houses or sitting on their porches and clapping for you as you go by. You know what I mean? So, for those who don't know, Philly.com has put out a thank you letter to the volunteers and the local support that the city has shown for you people. That's right. So, let's get into this because the person who wrote this article had already ran this Broad Street Run before, all right? But their friend that they were with had never run it. So, they were afraid that they weren't going to get the real experience because, like I said, and they talked about how it was pouring. It was pouring rain. Didn't know how the people were going to be. Didn't know if there was going to be anyone out there. You're just running, 10 miles just in the pouring rain and the cold for no damn reason, pretty much. And the person said they were, really shocked that so many people were coming out of their houses, and there were so many kids and so many elderly and so many people just out there, local support-wise. You can see them literally just coming out of their houses and supporting the runners. They want to thank. They went on to thank the volunteers for keeping up good spirits, that are handing you water and stuff like that. And they wanted to thank the local support. And it goes to show you, and they said that, Philly actually did something great, on a really rainy day. They really shined out. And I said before that the local support was amazing, as opposed to that. So, like I said, I think that a lot of people don't understand when you're doing these runs, even though you're participating, those volunteers, mind you, key word is volunteers. I mean, they're not getting paid to do this. They're doing this out of the goodness of their own heart. You know what I mean? They're out there trying to hand you water, trying to hand you this stuff, cleaning up your mess. Because let's be honest here, a lot of runners, they're drinking water, they just spike the stuff on the ground. They throw it on the ground. They throw it whatever. They don't actually throw it. And like I said, the volunteers had trash bags. People weren't throwing them in trash bags. People weren't throwing them in trash cans that they had. They're throwing them on the ground. This is what they got to clean that up. They have to clean that up. So it goes to show you that it takes a special type of person to be a volunteer in those type of runs. You got to think thousands and thousands of people just running, and yeah, you got to clean up after them. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just want to give a big shout out to those people. You know, like I said, the supporters were great, the volunteers were great. Now that we're still on running, I want to speak about new running shoes that I got not too long ago. And I posted pictures on Twitter and talked about it a bit, but not much. I want to talk about the Adidas Figer 6s. All right, the Adidas Figer 6. So I'm going to show you what they look like. All right, box these real quick. The Adidas Figer 6s. I don't know if you can see them real quick. I will take them out. I'll just take out one shoe. Now, the Adidas Figer 6s. Now, let me say now that when I do my runs, I run in the Adidas Figer 5s, okay? And they're very light, and I felt as though it couldn't get any better until I ran into the Adidas Figer 6. Now, let me say this now. It's very sleek. It's very light. When I put these on, now, mind you, I got 2 pairs of these. 2 pairs. And I say this because one is for everyday walking around. The other is for running, okay? Now, I say this due to the fact that if you see the grooves on the bottom, it has a lot of pull. And you see the design of the shoe at the bottom, it's very flat. For people like me, who are about as flat-footed as Donald Duck, this is a great shoe. I say this because it's so light, it doesn't even feel like you're wearing anything, compared to the 5s, which I thought were extremely light, you know what I mean? So, I definitely had to get these. The reason I bought 2, like I said, I bought 2, they were $40 a pair. The reason I bought 2, like I said, not only because everyday wear and running, but also, if the deal was, if you bought 2 pairs, you got a 3rd pair free. So, I got a 3rd pair of sneakers for free as well, you know what I mean? So, it goes to show you that $40, you do not need a really expensive running shoe to really, you know, put on those miles and actually have comfort and actually have support. And I say this due to the fact that the support, you have to understand, even though it's a low-cut top right around here, all right? You see that? It's a low-cut top around the ankle. It also has a really it has pretty much a really good suction factor right here for the base of your foot. You know, well, especially the base of your foot's here. But for the plantar of your foot, so when you flex and extend, you know what I mean? Depending on how you run. Some people, when they run flat. They run like this. It depends on your foot strike. So they can run flat, run this way. Or some people, when they run, when they pull their leg back, they bend their leg back this way and then bring it back. All right? So it depends on how you run as a runner. You know what I mean? However, like I said, this is one of those things where this shoe, and like I said, I've already tried it out with just regularly walking and testing it out and see just how much give it has. You know what I mean? This shoe has a lot of great give. Like I said, I think that I found the best shoe, and I said before that the Figer 5s were the best Adidas running shoe I've ever run in. The Adidas 6, Figer 6, best shoe I've ever, I'll say right now, walked in. Because I haven't run in these yet. So, we'll see what happens with that in the future. You know what I mean? I'm definitely going to use it, but I'm still going to run with the 5s just now because they're already broken in. And, they still have some mileage left on them that I can keep running in. So I'm not going to use those. I'm not going to activate those just yet. There's no point. You know what I mean? Now, when that shoe starts to, the Figer 5s start to run down, they start to, tear away, well, then it's time to get rid of those and then move on to the 6s. So, as you can see, I've already got planned for the future, another running shoe, and you don't have to worry about anything, when it comes to that, because you already know how it feels. And like I said, by the time those other shoes are broken in from walking in them, you should know that this is not going to be a hard thing. Like I said, they feel light as air. They are amazing. They are. As far as I'm concerned, the reason I'm talking about this today is because a number of you on Twitter had said, hey, can you help us out with specific running shoes and, when it comes to price cost and stuff like that. Because no one wants to buy a $125 shoe, you know what I mean, just to do the same thing that you're probably going to get and the same support that you're going to get from a $40 shoe. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. And also, I put it like this. If you don't know what type of shoe you should be wearing when it comes to if you have a high arch, a low arch, or if you're flat-footed, by all means, there are a lot of shoe places that have those machines where you actually take your shoes off and you step on the machine and it actually tells you what type of shoe you should be wearing. So I would say, if you don't know what type, to go and do that. Seriously, if you're planning on running. This is one of those things that, once again, like I said, with the Broad Street Run, it's one of those things where even if you weren't a very experienced runner, you're a novice runner or a beginner, it tailored to you. A lot of these 5Ks, depending on how the course is designed, which we talked about the Phillies 5K not too long ago for charity, yeah, that wasn't designed for beginner runners. It wasn't. And it was a tough terrain due to the fact that because it's a slope and you're going through the park, and like I said, people got into fights over it. So it goes to show you that's one of those things. However, speaking of terrain, because we talked about this last week about the Spartan Race, I need to talk about this because apparently now they are highlighting a specific athlete that now is running in the Spartan races. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, Randy Moss. Moss. Look, let's get into this, okay? Look, I'm sure that we can all agree that Randy Moss is an elite athlete, right? I don't think anyone can doubt his athletic prowess when he was in the NFL. I don't think anyone will. Won't. I won't. You know what I mean? He's a great athlete. But when you come into the Spartan Race, and you say you're going to do your trifecta, and your first race is a Spartan Sprint, which is the easiest of the three, seriously, Randy, like, come on. Let's be honest here, all right? You did the easiest of the three first, which Spartan Sprint, for those who don't know, it can be anywhere from 3 miles to 5 miles, all right? He did the easiest first. My first ever Spartan Race, as you know last week, was the Beast, was the hardest of the three. Matter of fact, my Spartan Sprint isn't coming up till the end because it's the easiest of the three. So I'm doing everything backwards. Beast, Super, Sprint, Stadium Series. That's what I'm doing. So Randy Moss, for you to want to do the trifecta, and you're doing it in the easiest way possible first, I don't know if it's a factor of making sure you want to know what you're getting yourself into or whatever, instead of just, taking that leap and saying, hey, look, I'm strong enough to go and do whatever. I don't know. But I just find it funny. And the thing is, it's hilarious to me that they're, because Randy Moss, let's be honest here, is a celebrity in his own right when it comes to athletics, that they're giving him his own column because he's Randy Moss. Even though he's only done a sprint. That's all he's done so far. Now, will he be doing the others? Clearly he will be if he's going to go for a trifecta. But he's only done a sprint so far. There's video of this man doing a sprint, getting hype because he did the sprint, and then like partying afterwards. I'm like, Randy, you did the easiest of the three. You hype? Like, come on, man, what's wrong with you? Like, okay, maybe it's just me. You know what I mean? I just find it funny that they would highlight Randy Moss simply because, let's be honest here, simply because he's Randy Moss when he's doing the easiest of the bunch. Okay, whatever. Once again, you'll never be able to get away from such star power. No matter what you participate in, no matter where you go, you should know by now that celebrities or even elite athletes like Randy Moss will always get that shine as opposed to, like I said before, the guy who's out there doing Spartan races that has one leg. The guy who's out there doing Spartan race that's 700 pounds and completing the Beast. You know what I mean? Like I said before, those are the type of things, to me, that are more inspiring and deserve more coverage, if you ask me, as opposed to Randy Moss, elite athlete, doing a sprint. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Anyways, let's move on to basketball. I have to say this now. I've said it before. I'm not very happy with the NBA playoffs. They're actually kind of fucking boring, to be honest. Like, I'm only talking about the NBA playoffs because, number one, there's not much on TV when it comes to sports, and number two, just to talk about you guys and girls in the video. That's it. I really have no connection, no type of emotional connection with the NBA playoffs at this point. Unless I'm just going to yell at refs. That's pretty much all it is. I'm not shocked by what's happening. I'm not shocked by anything I've seen. Nothing to me has been amazing to say, hey, this NBA playoffs, this is a really good game right now. Nothing. I'm literally looking at the games like this. That's it. Like, it's ridiculous. And then I'll make a comment on Twitter every once in a while. That's it. Like, it's just, NBA playoffs they've just become extremely boring for me. They are. But we can talk about the things that have happened in the NBA playoffs, because we'll start with the East. Let's start with the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's right. Atlanta Hawks. You got swept by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, what only makes this funny is not with the fact that what the Hawks players were saying. No, that's not what just makes this funny. Al Horford's sister came out on Twitter, and I think that's another reason why the NBA playoffs is the only saving factor in the NBA playoffs is because of Twitter. Because Al Horford's sister comes out and bags on the Cavaliers and says that the Cavaliers are the team that you want to root against because they're like in a movie, they're the bullies in the movie, and you always want to root for the underdog. Which she couldn't be more wrong. Because I put it like this, the Cleveland Cavaliers have been losing since, how many years? I can't remember. How many years? The Cleveland Cavaliers they haven't won a championship with LeBron yet? Okay. So, what the fuck makes them the bullies? I'm just trying to figure this out. Because the Atlanta Hawks have a complete squad. So clearly they're not the Bullies. Last year, they were deemed as the team to beat Cleveland. So they can't beat the Bullies either. I mean, like, I don't understand where she's getting this from. You know what I mean? I feel as though the Cleveland Cavaliers will sweep these playoffs till they get to the finals. Because let's be honest here, all right? There's no way that Miami is going to beat them. Come on, stop. Miami's having a tough time with Toronto, which Toronto is overrated as hell. I mean, you got Lowry dropping 33 on Miami. You think he's going to do it against the Cavs? No, he's not. He's not. Let's be honest. And DeRozan's just pretty much nowhere to be found at this point. I mean, seriously, if those are the two guys that you are leaning on, as opposed to looking at the roster for the Cleveland Cavaliers, this is not going to go well for Toronto if they pass Miami. And Miami is already, they have a number of injuries, so they're already out if you ask me. This is an easy sale for the Cleveland Cavaliers. There's a good chance they could sweep all the way through the finals. If they don't, they don't. But there's a good chance they could sweep. However, I will say this. Hawks fans, I got to come back to you. Because when you start this series, all right, and you're playing, there's no way you can have your guard, Teague, come out and tell the Cleveland Cavaliers, yeah, not this year. You're not going anywhere this year.
Hawks team is not going to go anywhere if Teague of the evening. Teague, Millsap, and Horford.
But on the way to getting swept, I felt as though Game 4 yesterday, what happened with Atlanta and Cleveland, Atlanta got kind of screwed on this, all right? Because you can't sit here and tell me that this is a jump ball. It's not a jump. Look, you have to have two hands on the ball in order to struggle and say it's a jump ball. But LeBron has one hand on the ball and another hand on the guy's jersey. There's no. If anything, that is a foul. But, of course, the refs messed that up as well.
Hawks come down with the rebound. Shot clock off for Atlanta. Dennis Schroeder gets the ball at half court. Drives inside. LeBron picks him up. They get tangled. Jump ball called. Schroeder not happy with the no foul. Mike Budenholzer feels the same way. He goes to the basket aggressively, but LeBron comes in at right the exact time.
The refs have blown calls over and over, time and time again throughout these playoffs. Again, I can't take it seriously because of the way the refs are acting. Like I said before, the NBA refs blew 5 calls in the final 13 seconds of the Thunder versus Spurs game. This is something that we just keep seeing. And the NBA admits that they did wrong. And the only thing they said that they'll try and do is fix it in the future. We'll look at it in the future and see where we can make things better. You've had how many years to get this right? I don't want to hear this anymore about how you need to keep improving to get things better with your referees. We already know that the refs dictate the flow of the game. We know this, okay? Speaking of Spurs versus Thunder, last night, Kevin Durant puts on pretty much a show. That's what he did. He had to drop 41 points in order for the Thunder to survive, I'll say, against the best defense in the league, which is the Spurs. We know this, okay? However, I can't give the Spurs so much credit due to the fact that, as you already know, and I've stated this before, I cannot stand the San Antonio Spurs, and I will never root for the San Antonio Spurs until Parker and Ginobili are gone, because they flopped way too damn much. Anyone who watched the game last night, you saw Parker, he was throwing the ball off the glass, and when he do, bowl himself into the crowd again. Like, you've been doing this for years, dude. It gets old. It's predictable, and yet refs are still calling this. I don't understand why. If a guy is animated and he throws himself on the floor, that's on him, all right? He hasn't been touched to the point or pushed, or there's not enough contact for this guy to throw himself on the ground like that. But yet, we're supposed to be okay with that. It's amazing how people like Marcus Smart, who deserves to be fined for his flop, but Tony Parker does this for years, and Ginobili does for years, no fine. No fine. Is it because they're the Spurs? And here's the thing. When you see this type of stuff, you got to look at the coach and say, hey, Pop, because I know a lot of people respect Greg Popovich, but you know what? I can't respect Greg Popovich if he's going to let his players do that. I can't. I don't care how many, NBA trophies they want. I don't care. I don't. You're killing the game this way. But it took Kevin Durant to drop 41 in order, he played like a madman pretty much, in order to win this game yesterday so they weren't going to be eliminated. And because let's be honest here, if the Spurs would have went up 3-0, game over. It's done. The series is over, all right? But Kevin Durant tried to pull it out. Now it's 2-2. We will see what happens when they go back to San Antonio. I'm sure San Antonio is going to win that game due to the fact that they're in San Antonio. They're going to get a lot of calls in their favor. You have to expect that, okay? However, speaking of Kevin Durant, all right, for those who don't know, over the weekend, apparently the real MVP, because we all know about that, the real MVP. I want to blame the people who made the memes on this one, because apparently his mom got her own movie about it. That's right, call it the real MVP, and you should have known it was going to be on Lifetime. Yeah, I'm not watching that. It's on Lifetime. I don't watch the Lifetime channel. Anyways, instead of just going by scrolling and seeing, like, what is this? You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm not watching that. But I do want to move on to the last bit of the NBA playoffs, and that is the Golden State Warriors versus the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, Trailblazers fans, I'm just going to sit here and say that this is a done deal. I mean, let's be honest here. Damian Lillard cannot do this on his own. And when I was watching these games, I'm watching Damian Lillard penetrate. You know, he's scoring when he needs to score. He's putting his team on his back pretty much. But when he's penetrating, he's got to kick out to a guy who's clearly wide open. I've seen this multiple times throughout the series. And the guys are wide open, uncontested shots. And he missed them. And I'm just like, are you serious? Like, you can take your time and shoot that. It seems like the guys around him, he doesn't have enough pieces to keep this going. That's how I feel. You can't have one man, you can't put this on one man's back. Especially someone like Damian Lillard. He needs help. He needs help. They go against, the defending champs. I don't see this going well for Portland. I just really don't. You know what I mean? Like, it's done. It's done as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? So, I believe it's done, isn't it? I haven't seen the series in a while, so. But what I did see over the week, it was like, yeah, this is just, it's done. Like, if he's not on the floor, they're in trouble. It's that simple. They're in trouble. Portland can't hold off. They can't hold off the onslaught that Golden State can do. And I know a lot of people are going to say, but Portland, you got to have some faith in Portland. No, I can't have any faith in Portland. Because, like I said, Lillard is your only guy pretty much. And that's not saying much. I mean, it's no disrespect to to Lillard because he's a great player. He is. He's a great player. He's trying to do everything he can to score and get his team ahead. But it's going to catch up. And that's the thing. When you look at the roster, no, it's done as far as I'm concerned. It's done. But speaking of things that are done, we need to talk about this because this kind of upsets me. I will say this today. That's all. Okay. So as we know, Steph Curry is going to be named the MVP, okay? Which, whether you debate that he should be or not, that's up to you, okay? They're going to name him the MVP. Now, that's not the problem here. The problem is with ESPN. So, they bring this guy on, NBA Insider or whatever, and they want to know if it's going to be a unanimous decision, like how it was with Shaq and LeBron, right? And the guy says, no, it won't be a unanimous decision. And I want you to listen to why he says it's not going to be a unanimous decision. Fans, I expect you to get upset over this.
Reaction to Steph's second consecutive MVP.
Expected, deserved, classy. I mean, he's, like Mark said in the piece, he's the face of our league, and he carries it very well.
LeBron and Shaq, one vote shot being unanimous. Steph has a chance to be unanimous. You think he will be?
No, I don't. I think the second half of the season, while still MVP caliber, there was still a little bit more of a conversation between him. You got Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James came on strong in the second half of the year. I expect somebody somewhere to be that guy. Say, well, actually, I think someone else deserved it more than Steph. So, it is what it is.
Is that your contrarian sports writer voice?
That's the voice of Twitter. The person who sits there when you say Steph Curry almost broke Will's PR. Well, actually, they have some sort of rebuttal.
Now, before anybody gets on me about calling him an NBA insider and saying, well, it says ESPN front office, you do realize that they don't have an NBA front office, right? I'm just saying. You realize, like, the NBA has front offices for each team, and they have their own, their own corporate, section for the NBA. ESPN does not. Okay? He's an insider. However, here's what bothers me. Okay? You want to sit here and you want to make fun of fans for having a difference of opinion on Twitter because of, Steph Curry not being, unanimous. And he goes about this in the most childish way, which is he's going to make fun of said fans of the NBA who take to Twitter because they have a difference of opinion. right? By calling them, well, pretty much mocking them and saying they're a bunch of whiny nerds. That's what he's doing, okay? That's exactly what he's doing. Now, mind you, when the guy had asked him, he said, is that your sports writer voice? Because they're trying to say sports writers are whiny nerds. He says, no, these are the people, the NBA fans, that are on Twitter. Okay, so all NBA fans sound this way when they have a difference of opinion. That's what he's saying. Now, mind you, I could come out and act this way and say, no, you're just crying on it. You want to know why? Because I'm not a professional. That's why. I'm not a professional at this. He's a professional. He is contracted with this broadcast. The very same broadcast, okay, that airs video game competitions, that airs chess tournaments, that airs spelling bees, and this is the angle you decide to take. Yeah. It's very ignorant of you to do that, and childish of you to do such a thing. So every NBA fan who has a difference of opinion, whether you play basketball yourself, you could be a power lifter and be an NBA fan and have a difference of opinion. Apparently he's going to reduce you to, you're just the whiny nerd who sits on Twitter and, by the numbers and stats. Isn't that his job? I'm just saying, isn't that his job? To go by the stats, to go by the numbers, to see how everything feels, stuff like that. Isn't that his job? No? I mean, if we're going to talk about front office work here, yeah. See, this is just another thing of showing you that ESPN, while they depend on you fans to watch their stuff, they have no problem degrading you when it comes to you having a difference of opinion. Yeah. That's what that comes down to. It's absolutely, if you ask me, it's hypocritical, number one, and it's pretty fucking disgusting, if you ask me, because if that's the route you have to go, I'm just saying, it's pathetic. For a professional, you should be able to carry yourself in a better fashion. But of course not. Speaking of people who can't carry themselves in a better fashion, once again, we're going back to the NBA. And for those who don't know, the Griffin Force flop of the week, Cody Zeller. I cannot believe that you decided that you were going to try and flop against Whiteside during this time. This is during the playoffs. Told you, playoffs. Flopping and getting calls wrong. Because that's what the NBA is all about. Let's take a look at the clip.
Really saw it until now. Here's a look at how Whiteside picked up his second foul.
Oh my.
Incidental bump between White.
Incidental bump. I'm not trying to hear that. He barely touched the guy. There was not enough force to push him back that way. You can't sit there and tell me that. That's a flop as far as I'm concerned. Get out of here, man. You know what? Like I said, last week I gave the Hornets credit for playing as hard as they did against Miami because no one expected them to go that far, and then that shows up. Jesus Christ. Let's move on. Let's talk about more train wrecks. This weekend, Chelsea. God. Chelsea. You lose to Sunderland. Right? Okay. No. Okay. And I'll put it like this. I guess it's somewhat okay because Sunderland did show heart. And, they're trying to fight out of relegation. So I understand that. So I'm not going to hold this against Sunderland. But Chelsea. Yeah. What's going on? And people message me on Twitter like, yo, you can't be happy about that. Yeah, I was around my way was like, yo, you can't be happy about that. No, I'm not fucking happy about it. Why should I be happy about it? It's absolutely ridiculous that they would pull such a thing. However, I don't know if I should give them a mulligan on this because what happened between them and Tottenham? Because if it wasn't for Chelsea tying with Tottenham, Leicester City wouldn't have been able to celebrate that week. And you know what? Earlier last week. And once again, Leicester, you deserve to celebrate. You deserve the championship. By all means, congratulations. I said that before. However, I do need to talk about Chelsea because you have to be kidding me that John Terry got a red card, which means that John Terry will not be available to play in the final 2 games. That's right. Now, here's my problem with that as well. Because, as you know, we've talked about this before, that John Terry has not been offered a new contract yet. Even though the organization, the club, has said that they're going to offer him a new contract. He's already said that he's willing to make his exit from Stamford Bridge after being there for so long. So, as far as I'm concerned, is this how you want to leave your legacy in the final 2 games, John Terry? See, you're going to be known as the guy who's been there for a long time. You're going to be known as the guy who was a leader of this team, and you've won so many, accolades, and then you got the dark side of John Terry, which a lot of people are going to bring up the racism factor. A lot of people are going to bring this up. Like, it was embarrassing to watch. At first, I thought, okay, maybe Chelsea would dig deep and show a lot more heart and say, okay, they're going to send Sunderland packing. Nope. Didn't happen. Nope, not at all. I just don't understand what's going on with this club because, once again, it's almost like everything is a bizarre world. It's almost like just like Philadelphia almost, where teams you're supposed to beat end up beating you, and teams you got no business beating, you end up beating. Or tying. I don't get it. I don't. Maybe it's not for me to get this season. I don't understand. I still feel, even though there are a lot of sensitive fans out there, I will say that it's still not that bad of a season. I will say that. Like I said, when you're a Sixers fan, when you're an Eagles fan, when you're a Phillies fan, you know what I mean? I can't even say much about the Flyers because they made the playoffs. But, you know what I mean? And the Union are playing pretty good right now. But you have to understand, when you've dealt with disappointment for years and years and years and years over across the board when it comes to your sports teams, and you won it last year, you won Premier League last year, I'm not going to bitch too much in the overall scope. Where some of these people were just complaining overall, I don't get it. Like I said, you should have won that game. It's disappointing that you didn't win, but it was hilarious to see you tie with Tottenham. And then the players started fighting on the pitch, and it was pretty funny. Yeah, I would say that was pretty funny. I want to move on to hockey. I got a chance to see a little bit of hockey this week. Not much with the playoffs. Sharks retake the lead against the Predators. And I have to say this now. I understand that it's still early and it's been a couple days, but are the Sharks and Predators still playing? Because, that's what it feels like. Let's be honest here. They went into 3 overtimes, and I'm just like, bruh, come on, what's going on here? You know what I mean? It just felt like it was forever. It just wouldn't end for some reason. And that's old school hockey, too, because you got to think, when you used to watch hockey back in the day, especially in the 90s, they would just keep going and going and going and going. It's just like, Jesus Christ, this overtime. You see how many overtimes have been played. That's why they brought in the shootout. But as you know, it's playoff time, so they're going to have those overtimes. But the Sharks retook the lead. We'll see what happens. Also, Caps versus Penguins. As much as I hate to watch this series, and for a number of reasons. It's not just because the Capitals eliminated, the Flyers, or the Flyers and Capitals are rivals, and the Flyers and Penguins are rivals, so you want to see both teams just kill each other. But also you have to remember that the NHL has wanted this for a while. As you know, for a number of years, the poster boys are Ovechkin versus Crosby. You should know this, all right? Regardless how much they've tried to promote the Chicago Blackhawks, you should know that always the Golden Boys are going to be Ovechkin and Crosby. It's always been that way. It's been that way for quite a very long time. All right? So, to watch this wasn't very happy for me to watch. You know what I mean? And to see that the Capitals are actually trying to force a comeback now is really weird because Caps fans, you jumped on us. And I understand it's just rivalry, but you jumped on us for being 3 down. Okay? And then the Flyers started trying to come back, and they made it a series. And now you're going through the same thing that we went through. So, there's that. Also, I have to say, Penguins fans, Caps fans, I have to ask you, all right? Because a lot of you like to talk trash about us Flyers fans. You always say how much you hate Philadelphia, all right? But over the years, you're still playing the Rocky theme in your stadium. You're still playing Eye of the Tiger in your stadium. I'm trying to figure out, if you hate us so damn much, why are you playing us stuff in your stadium to get your fans hyped? I'm just wondering. And it's not just in Washington. We heard in the previous couple years of Washington, but also in Pittsburgh as well. So I'm trying to figure out, do you really hate us that much? Do you really hate Philadelphia that much? Like I said, all rivalry aside, I get the rivalry. You know what I mean? Do you really hate us that much? I'm just wondering. Because you playing our music in your stadium and, I want to move on. That's right. Not going to talk much about anything else when it comes to the NHL right now. We'll talk more next week. I want to move on to boxing, since I didn't get a chance really to talk much about fighting last week due to the fact that, y'all asked me to talk about wrestling in China and stuff like that. So I want to get into this right now. So, Canelo versus Khan. Told y'all this was going to happen. Told you it was going to happen. You should have known that Amir Khan was not going to be able to stand up to Alvarez. You should have known this. All right, Amir Khan is the smaller guy going into this fight. You should have known that Alvarez is just waiting. And here's the thing: unless you're Floyd Mayweather, who, for those who watched that Alvarez Mayweather fight, how he just put on a boxing clinic, Amir Khan, a lot of people gave him the first 4 rounds. You know what I mean? So it's not, like I said before, Amir Khan isn't just some scrub. He is a very talented fighter. But when you're going against people who are better than you and who are clearly talent-wise better than you, you don't stand a chance. Like I said, you got knocked out by Danny Garcia. In the 6th, you got knocked out by Canelo. And you should have known this was coming. I understand it's a big payday for you. But like I said, listen, by any means, if you'd have beat Canelo, you wouldn't have beat Triple G. So your situation isn't helpful whatsoever, whether you win or lose in this. But you got knocked out, and of course, the internet, and after he got knocked out, I will say Canelo did make sure, it was nice of him to make sure that he was okay when he knocked him out, you know what I mean? You don't want to see people get hurt in the ring. You are fighting for a reason, but you don't want to see anyone severely hurt, okay? So, the athletes respect each other. And then the internet just takes it and runs with it. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, started posting these type of pictures about Amir Khan. I say I didn't tell you so. I know there's one specific Khan fanboy who was mad at me before. Oh, he's hurting right now. He's hurting. Anyway, let's move on into UFC. For those who did not watch UFC last night, good card. Really good card. There were some disappointments here and there, but especially with the women's fights. There's no way that you can stack up a woman who's so tall and is a champion kickboxer, multiple champion kickboxer, who was 46-0, and you got her fighting a girl who's like 5'5", and of course she's not going to stand a chance. It's just, come on, that's just ridiculous. However, the fights were, overall, the fights were great. Bigfoot Silva gets knocked out again in a couple seconds, literally. It was like, 20 seconds maybe? 30 seconds, something like that? Came in, got caught with a quick uppercut, real quick uppercut, just dropped. Yep, that was pretty much it. And it's out the fight. At this point, I have to ask, the show of hands, how many people haven't knocked out Bigfoot Silva? I just want to know, because we're probably the only people who hasn't done it yet. At this point, no one fears this guy anymore. And don't get me wrong, he's still a threat. He's still a terror. But every time he goes up against a heavyweight, he has a bad track record getting knocked out. I mean, I don't know, man. There's something about it. But however, I will say, the fights last night were really good. Submission-wise, I see a lot of rear naked chokes that weren't applied correctly. And I told you, we've talked about this before, about applying a rear naked choke. What did I tell you? If you can't get under the neck here, you go here, and you take your forearm, and you just push, and you can break a jaw that way. And we saw that not too long ago. Gunnar Nelson did it in his fight, where he was just pushing and pushing right here. And the guy tapped because his forearm, like I said, the bone in his forearm is just pushing. If he kept applying that pressure, he was going to break that man's jaw. So he had to tap. I told you, this is Jiu-Jitsu 101. So, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where when you see these things, when you practice this stuff, you do this stuff, and you see it on screen, and you see, oh, this is getting ready to happen, you see what he's doing. There's a couple times the announcers didn't even know what was going on in other fights, where the guy tapped, and he didn't have the full choke on, he had it here, but he was cranking, and he's neck cranking, he's pulling, I'm like, yo, he's going to tap, and the guy tapped. And the announcer's like, well, he didn't have the full choke on. Yeah, he didn't, but he got the job done, because there are other ways of getting a person to tap once you have their back. And it seems like some people didn't know what they were talking about last night. But it is what it is. You know what I mean? Alistair Overeem, as we know, TKO to Arlovsky. It seems like Overeem is trying to be very serious about, being a contender for this title. And it's hard for me to, once again, because like I said, with athletes in general, when you get caught with steroids, with PEDs, it is hard for me to support you. Alistair Overeem, I was a big fan of his for a very long time. And then we saw he got caught with steroids. And it was just like, and if you look at him then, as opposed to now, yeah, big difference. But, I mean, he's trying to make his way back. I mean, if he gets a chance, I mean, do you see him beating Verdum or Velasquez? Do you see him beating any of those guys? I don't. I personally don't. Because as we know, still, even though Alistair Overeem is putting on this, he's really catching fire at this point, he still has a really, really weak chin. He does. And that's going to be a problem. So, we'll see what happens in the future with that. Overall, card was great. There were finishes. There was just, everyone did what they needed to do in the octagon. You know what I mean? Even those who were going up, it was uphill battle for them, they still tried to scrap it out. And you know what? You always want to see that type of heart. Regardless win or lose, you want to see that type of heart. You want to see people just leave it all out there and say, hey, even if I lost, it's not like I'm just running around or just BSing anyone in the crowd or anything. I'm here to fight. And everyone did that. They went out there and they fought. You know what I mean? Also, I need to talk about this. I need to talk about Chris Cyborg. Because a lot of people have been saying Chris Cyborg needs to come to the UFC. Chris Cyborg needs to lose weight in order to be in the UFC. Well, Chris Cyborg has been signed to the UFC, and we're finding out she's been signed for months now. But she's been signed, and apparently she's going to fight at, well, they're telling her now, and I'll put the link in the info bar, she's going to have to fight at 135 in order to face Ronda Rousey. That's right. However, at the next pay-per-view at UFC, I believe it's the next pay-per-view, Chris Cyborg will be fighting at 140. Now, before I get on this great card, before I start talking about this on Saturday, I do want to speak more about Chris Cyborg. Now, a lot of people, like I said, this is 140, all right? It was reported at one point, a lot of people did not think that she would be able to make this 140 because reportedly she was walking around at 180 at one point. So for her to make 140, we will see if she can do it. I will be watching the weigh-in to see if she's really going to do this, because if she can make 140, if she's off the junk, and she can make 140, she will have no problem cutting another 5 pounds to fight Rousey. I will say that right now. But for those who sat and said, because for those, there's a lot of people who hated Rousey and they wanted her to fight Chris Cyborg, not, for how long now? They kept saying, well, Rousey needs to move up in weight. She needs to move up in weight. And what did I say? There's no weight class higher than that. You just can't create a weight class higher than that. Unless there's some serious star power that's going to be in higher weight classes, it's not going to happen. They're always going to make the women cut the weight, or any fighter for that matter, cut the weight and go down if they cannot handle those weights. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, Rashad Evans is already confirmed. He confirmed it last night. He is going to go down to 185. Mind you, he is at a light heavyweight at 205. That's the mark. You know what I mean? He's going to drop down to 185. That's right. So it goes to show you, if there's too much competition at one point, fighters drop weight. Or if there's a disadvantage, fighters drop weight. Or, like I said, they're not going to create just a weight class just to create a weight class. That's not how it works. If that's the case, they would have a weight class for UFC that's 265 and over. But they don't. They make sure that those heavyweights who are clearly having those problems, with their weight fluctuating, they try to make them at least get to the limit of 265. That's what they try to do. So when you're a heavyweight and say you weigh 206, guess what? You're going to end up fighting somebody who's, who could possibly be 265. That's how it works. That's the bumper room. Same thing with the women. They're not going to make a weight class higher just to make it higher. They're not going to do that. They're going to make them drop down. I told you this would happen because this is the stuff that you're supposed to know. But people were so gung-ho that they were going to, try and make, Rousey go up a weight. No, that's not going to happen. Now let's pick this stuff up. All right? I'm going to pick winners here. I'm looking at the chart to see what it was. We're doing the win. I'll put it like this. Jacare Souza versus Vitor Belfort. I'll put it like this. If Jacare can get Belfort to the ground, Jacare wins this fight. That's simple. If you think that Vitor Belfort is going to just go to the ground, you're crazy. This guy loves to stand. He loves to throw bombs. That's what he's known for. So Jacare is going to have a fight on his hands. But if he can get him to the ground, Jacare wins this. If Vitor keeps this standing up, guess what's going to happen? Vitor is going to win this fight. Okay, now, also, Anderson Silva versus Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall is a talent. He is a talent. After what happened with Anderson Silva with Michael Bisping, let's be honest here. If Anderson Silva does not take this fight seriously, Uriah Hall will wash him. That's what I'm saying it right now. But if Silva comes out and actually fights, Silva's going to win this hands down. Also, Chris Cyborg versus Leslie Smith. I feel bad for Leslie Smith if Chris Cyborg can make weight and is off the junk. Bottom line. But no. Maybe it'll be... You know what? As much as I want to pick Chris Cyborg in this one, severely hyped and everything, I'm going to pick the underdog in this one. This is going to be my upset pick. All right? I'll pick Leslie Smith. I know that's not going to go well, but I'm going to pick Leslie Smith. Also in the last fight, Shogun Rua versus Corey Anderson. I don't know how much stamina that Shogun Rua is going to have. I want to pick Shogun Rua, but if this fight goes more than 2 rounds, Corey Anderson's going to beat this guy. I'm just saying. Shogun Rua has had a history of not being able to survive X amount of rounds as the time goes on. He burns up so much energy in those first 2 rounds, and then after that, he's done. He just goes through the motions. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to take, like I said, I'm going to take Corey Anderson simply if he paces this out. If Shogun Rua comes out like a bull, a bull seeing red, and he's just going to keep throwing and hope for a knockout, that's a tough one for me to pick. Within 2 rounds, Shogun Rua. Outside 2 rounds, I'm going to say Corey Anderson. And so overall, I'm going to say this is going to be Corey Anderson's fight. That's what I'm going to say. And I believe that's all I have for today. Oh, no, not just yet. More UFC news. We talked about Chris Cyborg, and we talked about the UFC. Now, since I mentioned Ronda Rousey, I guess I need to talk about this. And there's something wrong with Ronda Rousey right now. There's something wrong with her. For those who don't know, Ronda Rousey curses out Paige VanZant at the Reebok deal. Now, Miesha Tate came out not too long ago and talked about this in an interview and saying that Ronda approached her and cursed her out, and Paige didn't know why. Paige was looking for her to take a picture with her because she feels as though she's a great athlete. Paige wanted to take a picture with her, at this event. And the people at Reebok stopped Paige from, talking to Ronda. It was like, no, don't approach Ronda Rousey. She does not want to talk to you. And Paige had no idea why. She was just like, why? I've never done anything wrong to Ronda Rousey. I've never said anything to Ronda Rousey. I've never disrespected Ronda Rousey. Apparently, Ronda Rousey confronted Paige and said to her, pretty much, that you congratulated Holly Holm in beating me. Fuck you. Who are you, you strawweight piece of shit? Well, just went off on her. Right? Now, of course, at this interview, this is Miesha Tate saying this, so you're probably thinking Miesha Tate's just, she's exaggerating a bit because Miesha Tate and Ronda Rousey don't get along, right? But no, Paige comes out and confirms this. That's right. So, Ronda Rousey, what is going on with you? So what if she congratulated Holly Holm in beating you? It almost feels like her mentality, she's done. She's broken. It's shifted. It's done. Or is this one of those things where she feels as though she needs a lot of people to hate her so she can overcome the odds? I don't know. Either or, I feel as though it was very Bush League for you to do that. I can understand if Paige was like, you know what, that's great on Holly Holm. Ronda Rousey was a bitch anyway, blah, blah, blah. And Paige says that, she never saw this side of Ronda Rousey because she's always held her in such high regard and high respect. And she wanted to take a picture with her because she respects her. And then Ronda goes and does something like that. This is not going to end well for Ronda Rousey if she keeps going this route. It's just not. Because fighters respect each other. I understand that you need some type of motivation, but you're not back yet in the UFC. You're not back in the octagon yet. You know what I mean? You're doing all these other things, and I understand you have other things that you want to do because, let's be honest here, fighting doesn't last forever. You know what I mean? And you have to have other career opportunities come your way. If they come your way, you take them, I get that. But you shouldn't be just going off on people simply because they congratulated Holly Holm. That's just congratulating the person, the champion. It doesn't mean anything less of you. It's just they're congratulating them. And you took that to an extreme where you're telling people to keep her away from you because all she wants to do is take a picture with you because she respects you. And that's how you treat upcoming fighters? Like, that's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. And I'm sure that's looked down upon amongst many. Like, you have to understand, in MMA, when you're training for MMA, they have rules in MMA. Some gyms, they don't let you curse. You are supposed to show respect. You're supposed to have no bullying, stuff like that. They have rules set up for the in MMA, and in certain gyms. And this would go against a lot of the rules that are enforced, at training. That the overall household rules of MMA. This is something you just don't do. I don't know if she's at her breaking point. Like I said, I don't know if it's a breaking point. I don't know if it's just her strategy to just say, everyone hates me, I have to rise above it now. We just don't know. But I feel as though this is the wrong way to go about it. Now you got Cyborg coming into the UFC. You've got Miesha Tate as your champion. You still have Holly Holm, who, regardless what happened between her and Tate, she's still a threat. She's still a threat. Ronda has, once again, this may be an Amir Khan situation, depending. It depends. You know what I mean? Ronda has a stacked deck against her. So if she's going to prove that she is the best in the world, she better start getting to it. You don't pick on straw weights. You don't do that. No, you get ready to go out there and you fight. And if you lose, you lose. But it took one loss to break you the way it did. I can only imagine if you fought up against Cyborg and Cyborg actually won. Without, all this stuff. We don't know. Or if you actually lost in a rematch, the third rematch to Miesha Tate, and she kept her title. Or if Holly Holm beats you again. Like, the mentality is just, I don't understand it. There's no rhyme or reason to it at this point. And, like I said, once again, I said before, Ronda needs help. She needs help. And like I said, sometimes her family isn't enough, and Travis Brown isn't going to be enough. You need to get some help to get yourself together. I don't know. This doesn't sit well with me in general. Like, you just don't do something like that. All because all she did was congratulate her? Okay, whatever. All right, I'm done for today. I'll talk to y'all later. Y'all be safe. Till next week. I said day, next week. Talk to y'all then. I'm out.